Hey, Alex here. You might know me as Radio Runner on Instagram. Welcome to my channel where I help share with you guys how to become more effective artists. In this video, we're going to go over how to draw heads, but not just the typical Loomis head that you might know about. Instead, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the Asaro Head. The Asaro Head was made by amazing artist John Asaro, and he made a sculpture called the Planes of the Head that is this amazing mock-up of how to break down the head into simplified polygonal forms. If you learn this sculpture, you're basically going to understand how to light it from any angle that you could possibly choose. It's a super powerful thing to learn, and we're going to go over a basic overview today. There's nothing more to say about that, so let's hop right in. I'm going to start off by showing you guys the traditional Loomis Head method that has been taught a lot. Proko has some great videos going over it. The Loomis method is created by artist Andrew Loomis. He has some fantastic books written back in the 1900s going over how to draw figures. The Loomis method is essentially where he describes starting with a sphere and as a three-dimensional object defining its orientation in space, chopping off the sides, and then bringing it down and giving it a chin. However, what we want to go over is the Asaro Head, and here's an image of that head from 3 different angles. It's a little more advanced. It's like you're leveling up your head knowledge. So the Asaro Head has 2 sides. There is the simple side, and there's the more advanced side. You can see that reflected in how the eye is constructed. One side is more of an approximation of what it looks like, while the other is an actual breakdown of its forms. This way you can practice it however you feel comfortable with. And essentially what you're looking at is the planes of how the head goes polygonally, considering bone and muscle structure. And I know what some of you guys are thinking. You're probably wondering, why do I have to do this? Why do I want to have to draw these really advanced, weird-looking, funky heads? I just want to draw anime. Well, here's the thing. Mangaka and animators really know their stuff. Like, a lot. Here's some brief examples. We got One Punch Man, Dr. Stone, and, Ross Draws on YouTube here. He likes anime and draws in that style a lot. Do these guys look like they know what they're doing? Yes. Yes, they do. You can take basically any manga book, look into pages, or at least look at the cover, and you've got so much knowledge to absorb into your eyeballs, especially as an artist. Just with line work, like in the Dr. Stone example, you have so much attention to detail showing the furrows of the brow, the wrinkles around the eyes, and he knows exactly where to place the light and how it falls on that face. Ross has amazing rendering skills, and without the knowledge of planes and anatomy that he has, he wouldn't be able to pull that off as well. And the same thing applies to Disney films, even earlier Disney, not just the 3D stuff. Take for example Tarzan. It looks simple, right? Like you've got these simplified forms, the gesture's really heavy, it definitely looks like a cartoon. But then you have these amazing pre-production sketches that were released behind the scenes, made by Glenn Keane, one of the lead animators. He does these breakdowns where he shows that he knows exactly where every single muscle group is on Tarzan's body. The only thing about it is that he stylizes and gives flow to the actual shape of the body. He knows exactly what muscles go where, what they even do, and how they extend in different positions. And you bet he knows the planes of the head too, down to fat pads and muscle anatomy. If you don't know Glenn Keane or haven't seen some of his work, just try looking him up on YouTube. He has amazing animations, and he just released a movie on Netflix last year called Over the Moon. It's a 3D movie, but it has a specific section that was animated solely by him, and it's so worth it. Check it out. Well, let's take some production expression sketches of some characters from Disney. We've got Frozen and Tangled on the right. And while it might look simple, I can break it down and show you exactly the kinds of planes that they're thinking about when they draw these faces. On the right with Flynn from Tangled, I'm showing in red where the planes of his face change. So underneath the brow line, his nose, and on the sides of the cheeks. They don't show those breaks with lines, but it's definitely there. You can see it on some of the sketches if they add the shadow line. On the left, we've got Hans from Frozen, and I show you how they have these excellent shapes of the face, especially on the sketch on the left that I go over in red, that has this lighting scenario where he's lit from the front or the back, and the rest of his face turned away is in shadow. And he only knows exactly where to put that break in shadow because he understands where the planes of the head are. If you don't know this information, then you're just drawing features on a flat face, and you don't get the same kind of complex depth that we're used to seeing in people. So the Asaro Head gives us this knowledge, and there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to understand and break down here. You can take it from every angle, memorize those planes, and it's a good thing to do over time. But that's a Herculean task, right? It's going to take a while. How do we actually learn this and start simple? Well, you could just go straight in and try to copy the Asaro Head as you see it. This is not a bad thing to do. I did it myself and I'd encourage you guys to try it out. So if you do this yourself, just find references of the Asaro Head online. Pinterest and Google have plenty of them, and draw what you see. It doesn't hurt to draw over it with a red line to break down the planes, starting with the biggest shapes that you see and then working smaller within them. And after you do that, you can try to draw it on your own. You can see in my sketches that I approach it similarly to how you might know of a Loomis head. You start off with the ball of your head, the cranium, and then extend it down to the jaw. However, there's just a lot more information that you can put in describing the complexity of the forms. And a lot of this is rooted in skull information. So if you guys want to know more about that, I can make a video on that too, just leave a comment below. Now these Asaro drawings just look like a bunch of lines, right? What's really going on? Well, it becomes a lot clearer when you add just even one shade of value to it to describe shadow. And I'll do that here. Instantly, by adding one value, it becomes three-dimensional and like there's a light source, and you're seeing a complex face in front of you. A great example from anime is to see how Attack on Titan handles this in their own show. I can compare the Asaro Head's planes and then look at some of the characters, and I always admired this in the show. They usually have pretty complex lighting scenarios on the face. With the character shot in the middle, I go over in a red line this awesome lighting scenario where they have this break on the character's mandible, which is the side of the cheek. It's there, it's not there on everyone, but if you know it, it adds a lot of accuracy. In the blue line, I go over the fact that Eren Yeager's eyes have been underscored with the lighting from the top down. It's very harsh, and they know exactly how the planes of the eyes sit in the head. So they're able to give this very accurate, I think it's called Rembrandt style lighting, where you have that triangle of light on the other side, and they know where the chin is broken, they know where the eyes are, and they know where the light stops at the forehead. On the left, we have a bunch of shots of the character Levi, and there's a lot of simplified lighting going on, but even still, you see that there's very deliberate and very thoughtful lighting on his face. I highlight in green the fact that there is this plane break of the side of the cheek to the front of the face, and that's mirrored on the Asaro Head. But the Asaro Head really is a very complex thing to learn, and it's going to take you guys some time. So let's try to simplify it first. Here's a couple images that I found on the internet. The bottom image is from Michael Hampton, amazing artist and anatomy author himself. In those reference images I show you, it's a mixture of what you might expect of the Loomis Head and the Asaro Head, and simplified down so that you still get those plane breaks, but there's not all of the jumble of different things on the inside. So instead of what I showed you guys earlier, you can try this. You can draw what you know of the Loomis Head, but then identify the brow ridge and how it curves back and notches into the head, goes forward on the cheeks, and drops back down. If you want, you can add the box of the nose, and even then you have a good planar setup for lighting the face. We can try to break down faces that we see into this simplified model. So I'm going to trace over these models, going over with a ball, extending the chin down from the jawline, and then tracing over where I see the brow line. Once I do that trace over, I can then go and practice it for myself freehand. Notice how I'm taking into consideration things like the placement of the ear, how the jaw goes up, but it also has the underscore that attaches to the neck and it's more flat. In this one, I try to simplify the lighting with one graphic shape and a single value, and there you go, you have a great study sketch to practice. Let's keep going. Women are usually harder to study from because their faces are softer. The planar shifts are less defined. But this woman has a very clear example of how her jaw and cheeks break into the front of the face, and I thought it made for a good example. You can trace over those shapes with the knowledge we know of the simplified head, and then try it on our own. Now, not every reference is easy to go over, so here's a curveball. What about a face that's looking up? You have that huge area of the underside of the jaw. It makes this sort of upside down U-V shape. Highlight that and connect it to the neck. And a great way to study is to look up your favorite movies. They've always got fantastic lighting, so the faces and the characters' performances are always very readable. So I trace over, and then I demonstrate that these can be lit different ways based off of the references that we see. If I go in and fill value like this, boom, instant head lighting. So try doing that 30 times. I guarantee you, by the end of it, you're gonna see some progress. So if you have any questions about this, you can go ahead and leave one in the comments section below, or hop into my Discord server. In it, myself and a bunch of other like-minded people are going over every single day how to learn art and how to make sense of all of the things that you need to learn online. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Leave a like and subscribe down below. I'll be continuing to go over fundamental topics like this, but you can also continue to learn this in even more detail. When I first started, I knew that there was so much that I had to learn and I felt so behind. So I just obsessed over scouring the internet for resources, and I tried to figure out the best way to order them so that I could learn progressively and quickly. So if you follow this curriculum, you're basically following in the same footsteps that I did, and you can see how I went from this to this in just 2 years. If you're interested, you can go and visit my Gumroad page down in the description below and join my Discord to talk about it more. Thanks for sticking around this long, guys. I hope you found this useful. That's going to be it for me today, so happy learning.